Thinking about leaving your soul sucking 9 to 5 job, one of the biggest struggles I see people, especially as women, face is the idea of having that safety net, that enticing perks and benefits, and listening to that head trash of what will people think if I leave. I totally get it, and I've been where you are. That's why I created a free guide to help you if you're thinking about putting in that notice. It's called Unlocking Your Exit Plan. Discover 5 things you need to do before leaving your 9 to 5. This guide is filled with worksheets and steps so you will have hand holding along the way. You can download your copy in the link in the show notes, and again, it's totally free. Now back to today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Hello Sis Dorsey podcast. I have Elizabeth on the show today. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you doing today?
I am great. It's actually my son's birthday today, so we're going for a nice dinner later. Yeah,
Yay.
I'm good. Big 30.
Oh, wow. You do
Yeah.
not look like you have a 30-year-old. Stop it.
Yes, I
Oh
do.
my goodness. Oh, he's gonna love the 30s, really. He is like the quietest, the most. I
Uh,
loved my 30s. I'm almost
yes.
out, but I love my 30s. Oh, he's
Yeah,
gonna have a ball.
a lot of self-discovery, I think, in your 30s. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How exciting. All right. So you tell everyone who you are and what you do.
I am Elizabeth Correia. I am a transformational speaker, author, coach, and the founder of Correia Enterprise, which is a women's platform for personal growth and lifestyle design. So I basically teach women the tools, lifestyle tips, techniques to help them in order to move from pain to passion to purpose to pay so that they can live their most fulfilling life filled with ease and flow.
Oh, I
That's what
love
I
it.
do.
I
Yeah.
love it. I'm gonna have a ball in this episode.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk about the inspiration behind you starting your business. What was that like for you?
Mm. It's funny because I actually didn't really go looking for this. I discovered my platform, my calling, my purpose while fighting through my life, while fighting through my pain. So when I say from pain to passion to purpose to pay, I got that from, what my journey was like and how that went for me. So I was, fighting through my life, fighting through my pain. I was on a healing journey and I discovered a passion for working with and speaking to, inspiring, teaching young girls. Started off with young girls because I was a young girl myself. I was not that I'm old, but I was, in my mid 20s when I discovered my passion for working with young girls. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, didn't know, had no idea, but that I would end up writing a book and the book would give birth to my speaking and then the speaking to co. I just knew that I wanted to work with young girls, that I wanted to restore hope into the lives of young girls in my community and within my city. It was a mission. And that's all I knew was that that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah, we're gonna dive into it a little bit more. So can you remember a time in your business or starting out where you had a hello moment? So you touched on it a little bit more, but is there a specific like time where you were just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mm, there was. Yes, there was. I was actually one Sunday morning, I was getting ready to go to church and I have my spiritual mom, her name's Roma. She would pick me up on Sunday mornings and she got there this day. I was probably in church for about, I'm going to say a couple years. If by the time this happened, I was already, in church and for a couple years. And I got in the car and, we're driving and she said, "Oh, I spoke with the pastor last night and you're going to share your story today." So I was like, do what? No, no, no. To who? Because by that time I was, involved in like youth ministry and the women's ministry. And I was speaking and sharing my story, but in very small groups. And there was like 2,000 people in this congregation. So I was thinking, okay, maybe she means like in a small group. So when she said to the congregation, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not doing that actually. I don't know why you spoke to the pastor before you spoke to me, but I'm not doing that. She's like, no, she's like, Elizabeth, there's a lot of people that need to hear your story. And my story was, childhood abuse, sexual, physical, mental, foster care. I was, born and raised in the project. So I became a product of that and teen pregnancy. And it went on and on and on. And she's like, and now I'm in church and I'm still, and I said to her, now, what exactly am I going to tell them? Because I am still stuck in my story. I'm still in a hot mess. So like, what is it that you want me to share with them? And she said, you're nowhere, you are nowhere near where you were when you started coming here. And you may not be where you want to be or where you vision yourself to be or where you desire to be, but you're nowhere close to where you were. And there's a lot of change. There's so much change. You're here every Sunday. You're here 2, 3 days a week. Even though I was, living kind of lukewarm, one foot in, one foot out, I have made a lot of progress. And she basically said there's a lot of young girls and young boys, younger than you, they're teenagers that are here that look up to you and that need to hear your story. And even the parents, the adults in the room need to hear your story. And so I told her I was on the way. I said, I'll think about it. I'll see how I feel when we get there. So of course, we open the doors, we usually sit in the front. Of course, as soon as we walked in, it's funny, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. I immediately said no. Oh, those people. I immediately said no. So I'm like, no, 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 no. I can't. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So I was sitting there. And because the pastor had already known that I was going to speak, because she just told him yes, she volunteered, she was like, yep, she'll do it. I put the two and two together. He was speaking on a topic of purpose. And then she did not tell him that I said no yet. So I was like, did you tell him that I'm not going to do it? Because like, I can't, I'm nervous. I'm scared. I can't just, she's like, no, she goes, just last minute when he calls you, just tell me if it's a yes or no. So he spoke that word, the message of purpose, and how everything in our lives happen, for a purpose, for a reason. And it's our job to find what the purpose is. Why is this happening? And so he called me up and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I went up and she came up with me. And so I went up there and she was up there with me. She kind of did a little intro about me, how she met me and stuff. And then she passed me the mic and I'll never forget the mic was in my hand shaking like this. My knees were like knocking. I thought I was going to fall out, like just, I'm not going to make it. And then I was just like, I just heard like this voice just say, breathe, and I just took a deep breath and I looked out to everyone and I just started sharing my story, my childhood story and my teens and the domestic violence. I was in that relationship for 5 years, from 14 to like 20. And I was crying in the beginning. I was crying a lot. Like it was my first time sharing publicly like that, like on a huge platform. And then I started seeing all the young girls and young boys in the congregation. I could see them in their seats and I started locking eyes with them and some of them were crying and they were just really locked into me. And I knew in that moment, there was something that just came over me. And I knew in that moment that my purpose was to help these young people. I knew. I didn't know what I was going to do, what my purpose was. I had no sense of purpose, but I knew in that moment that I was here, that I went through it all to help these young girls and these young boys. And so I said my part. I came off the stage, the pulpit. I went to my seat and then the service was pretty much over. It was 20, 30 minutes later. The pastor did like a closing message. And what happened next was the seal. It just sealed it. There was about, I'm going to say 35, 45 young people, boys and girls, mostly girls, lined up one behind each other, waiting to speak to me. Yeah, I was like, it was a feeling I can't even describe in words. And I spoke to every single one. Many of them cried, sharing their story of abuse and this and that. And I think we were the last ones in there. Roma stayed with me. She prayed for some of them, many of them, if not most of them. We were there about 3 hours later than after everyone left. And that was the start of my women's and youth empowerment movement. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love it. You got me over here. I'm teary eyed. I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
oh,
it's raining and it's
oh,
free. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
oh,
it's one of the things that's like from the heart reaches the heart. And I could
yes.
definitely feel it. It's amazing. And wow, it's so funny how just one small moment, it doesn't even have to be like this grand moment, that we're thinking that we need to see or have a sign or this and that and the other. It could just be something, just like that. And you share your story, and then it just takes off. Just that one moment just takes
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. You're so right. And I also think we're so afraid to just put ourselves out there. Like when I say I was crippled in fear, the mic really was shaking like that. I don't even know how I didn't drop it. Like I was so, so scared. And, you know, later on that night, I thought the fear was false. It was false fear, presenting itself as something real. But what was I afraid of? I was in a safe space. I was in a safe place, so what was I afraid of? So I think sometimes it just takes that putting yourself out there, put yourself out there, speak, share, whether it's an IG live or, launching a podcast or a YouTube channel or, put yourself out there. We have nothing to lose,
That's right.
you know?
That's
Yeah.
right. But it's in those imperfect moments that it's perfect.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, it was. It was
Yes.
that definitely a seed that she planted and that I also planted in my life. It was a test as well, because had I not experienced that, I don't know, maybe there would have been another opportunity, but it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely. Oh my goodness, this is so awesome. So let's talk about how to move from passion to pay.
Yes. So passion to purpose to pay. So I discovered a passion, at the time working with young girls, young, youth. And I made that passion my purpose. So how did I do that? I went looking for opportunities to share my story for free because I didn't know I could get paid for it yet. So I went looking for opportunities and I dedicated my time, a lot of my time and I was also healing myself. So I knew that it would help me to heal, to volunteering. So I was volunteering at a lot of the youth organizations. I spoke in youth prisons, in group homes, a lot of different anywhere where the clients were youth. I went and I served. So I'd volunteer, 1 hour a week at this organization and then the food bank, another hour a week, and that's what I committed my time to doing. And that was when I realized that I wanted to make it my full-time purpose. Like I want to build this. I want this to be my calling, my purpose, what I do on earth. And at the time I was listening and watching people like Joyce Myers and TD Jakes and all these different amazing speakers and Oprah and people who did the same. In their own way, their own style, they did the same. They made serving their passion for serving their purpose, and then they got paid. So it went from just being a passion to it becoming my purpose. This is what I'm called to do. I know this is why I'm here, to discovering how I could make a living doing it. And the very first time, and it was, when I realized I could get paid for it, was I was going to speak at a youth shelter. And the program coordinator asked me, someone had told her about my story, asked me what my fee was. And I was like, my fee. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, this was by email, by the way. So I replied and I'm like, fee? Like I didn't know. I really did not know. And she said, yeah, fee, what do you charge for whatever? So then I immediately went online searching because I'm like, okay, like I've heard you can, but like I've heard people like Tony Robbins and these big time speakers, they get paid, but like they want to pay me for just to tell a story of like a broken girl of like pain and abuse and, you know, so I went on Google and I searched and I read this article where they said that Tony Robbins, he first charged or his fee was $250. And he was speaking, and it was at a basement church or something like that. I can't remember. It was so many years ago. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to charge $250. So I replied and I said, no, my fee is $250. And she said yes right away. So I knew I was like, that was like lowballing, right? She said yes right away. She said, okay, send me an invoice. I'm like, an invoice. So then I went back on Google, how to create an invoice. And then I saw like these, free invoice templates. And I was like, and then that was just the start of me, moving. That's how I moved from pain to passion to purpose to pay. So I was fortunate enough to, you know, create a profitable speaking business from my passion or create a profitable business in general, no matter what it is from your passion, whether you love knitting or gardening, you know, or debating or thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, wow. And so funny. I'm just sitting here and, how you took that idea and then all of a sudden the door was open. The door to the opportunity to actually get paid for it was
Yes.
open and you walked through.
Yes. It's, you know, again, Tony Robbins says change, transformation, breakthrough starts with a decision. Usually the hardest part is the decision, not like wishy washy. Okay, I will next month. I will. Well, I think I can or I should. No, I am going to do ABC. And then once the decision is made, you start to see the opportunities and the open doors.
Any last minute advice you have for our listeners out there?
Yeah, what I would say is if you're listening and you have an idea or something you've been putting off or something's just not working out, maybe you've tried something, really sit back and reevaluate your true real passions. Like what are you passionate about? What lights you up? What can you talk about all day? What would you do for free? What would you do for free? Because you're going to have to do it for free for the first little bit, right? What would you do for free? What is never a waste of time for you? Like you could literally sit there and do it all day. What kind of blogs do you enjoy reading? Videos you enjoy watching, documentaries. Think of something you are super, super passionate about. Now, almost nothing under the moon has been, invented. Almost everything is like we're just pretty much reinventing or creating things out of things. And, it's very rare that you see someone who's going to like create light or electricity, right? Most things have already been created, but I'm saying there are still ways and things you can invent. But if it's something that someone is already doing, which I would advise to do, you find one person, the most two, study them. What's their story? If they have autobiographies, read them. If they've got YouTube channels, subscribe to them. Watch their videos every day. Study them inside out. Watch their social media. How are they posting? What are they posting? What are they talking about? Study their brand and create your version of it. That's it. Don't subscribe to 1,000 people doing this, because then your inbox is going to be all filled with things that you're not even going to open. You're going to overwhelm yourself. But just think of one thing you can do. Find one person who's already doing it and start with doing one thing. And the next thing I would say is definitely purchase the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it teaches you how to focus on one thing and just build it, build it, build it until it's successful on its own. And then you can branch and do other things. I wish I had taken this advice a long, long time ago. Because when I was just focused on speaking, I was very successful. It was all I was doing. And then when I brought in the coaching, I was doing speaking and coaching. Well, I had the book and speaking, and then the book, speaking, coaching. And then so I was kind of like, whenever I'm taking on too much, I'm not scaling the way I know I have or can be, right? So one thing, and you make that your one thing. I have heard Tony Robbins speak 5, 6 times. Same message every time. Yeah, that's my last words.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I definitely need to hear this message because I'm what do you call it? A multi-passionate person
Yeah.
that they call it. But it's so funny you mentioned that because today I actually said, Candace, next year you're just going to focus on one particular funnel. And then when that gets to the point where you want it to be, then you do the next funnel. I say, and that's all you working on next year. I say, because I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm doing my podcast. I'm doing a course. I'm doing this. And then I find that I'm not where I initially wanted to be in the beginning of the year. Everything's going great, but when I start incorporating other things, that's when everything starts to fall apart. And I say, Candace, don't do that no more.
So true.
You know?
Yeah. Then the course ends, I just finished creating mine, and, and the funnels that it took me so long to create those funnels. When you're taking on too much, it's unless you have a team, unless you've got a big team. I just have myself and my VA, right? But, it's for a one-man show. We can't. And there's no better way to get rich, not that it's just about monetary, than to do one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to read that book, The One Thing, because I've heard about it. So where can we find you?
On most platforms, I'm there as Elizabeth Correia. So if it's LinkedIn, Elizabeth Correia, my website, Elizabeth Correia, my YouTube, Elizabeth Correia, TikTok, Elizabeth Correia. And I do have my book, the Kindle ebook version is on Amazon. So you can get on Amazon. I believe it's like $5 there or something. And then you can also order an actual copy. And then I've got a course that's launching, which is I'm really excited about. I just launched a forgiveness course. It's a mini course, Forgive to Freedom. That one is $9, and I made it cheap because I wanted everyone. I don't want anyone to have an excuse not to take it. I am going to change the price in the new year, but I just wanted it like, you know what? I want everybody going into the new year free of unforgiveness. So that one I launched last month, and then I've got my personal transformation course, which launches on Black Friday. So I'll send you the links for that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, all good things. That's awesome. Look at you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, I'm so happy that you came on the podcast today. It's been really helpful. And I definitely do know this. Someone in my audience is going to get something out of it because I definitely did.
Thank you. And I appreciate you and the work that you're doing and the platform that you've created for, voices to be heard, across the globe.